City, San Diego, and the Gloria Madrano podcast. And I'm live. What's going on? Where are my people at? Hey, so I'm here and we are live. Um, and I wanna um I wanna pray for you all just real quick here. Because um I am feeling like God is moving. He's been moving in my heart. I feel like um I mean, every year that we go into the new year, we all get really excited, right? Where we're excited about starting over. There's just something about starting fresh. I don't know what it is, right? But there's just like, we're all like, yeah, I'm going to organize this and I'm going to organize that. And then we get like 2 weeks into it and we're like, oh, yeah, wait, I forgot what I was going to do. So I'm here today and I want to let's say a little prayer on that, okay? Let's lift up the name of Jesus before we get started. Father, I just lift up your holy name. I just worship you, Lord. I give you praise and honor and glory. You are good. You've always been good to me, and you've always been there with me in the midst of difficult conversations, in the midst of difficult seasons, and through the joys and loves and good times in my life. And I love that. And so I praise you, Jesus. I give you glory. And Father, I just ask you that you would just touch your people, that you would, you know, bring peace upon their troubled minds and make anxiety still in the name of Jesus. I pray for stillness in that anxiety. And Father, I just pray, Lord, just give us the wanting to give all trust to you in Jesus' name. Amen. So I wanted to come on today, and there's something that I've been that's been on my mind that I want to kind of elaborate on. I've talked about this before, but I want to elaborate on this subject going on into the new year, okay? And that subject is anxiety. Okay, anxiety, panic attacks, sleepless nights, and things like that. Okay, and I don't know if you guys realize or know, but I'm going to remind you that I am a Christian, and I believe that Jesus is the way, the truth. Okay, and no one can come to heaven or to the Father except through Jesus Christ, who is the Son of God. And when we trust God, I've been through anxiety to like the highest level, okay, um, which was stress induced, but also it was um, chemical, through hormonal issues. When you go through midlife for women, you go through, hormonal changes. But I see you guys saying hi. And so what I want to share is this, is that when you are serving the Lord and you trust in God, you'd believe that he is your maker. Okay. I believe that God is my maker, that he's created me. Okay. And so anything that happens in my body or, around me or in my life or in my immediate family or whatever takes place in life. And there's been some pretty big, difficult things that have taken place in life that I don't like. But no matter what, I know that God is my maker, that he made me and he will not leave me. Now, the issues of life and things like that may take their course. They may happen around us and even in our body, such as illnesses and things like that. But even in the midst of that, we are still God's people. He made us, even those that don't believe, okay? You can't take away the fact that you were created by God, okay? But what I want to share is that sometimes we start to think that we are our own maker and we are our own choice. We make choices, yes, we're in control of that. But we think that we hold on to control, right? And we want to, make sure that everything is in its order. And if it's not, oh boy, we freak out, right? And many people, you'll see many people who have big successes and, they're type A people. You know what that means? That means like they're the go-getters, they're the bosses. They're the ones that, they are in control. They have the paperwork and the details of what is going to happen on that day, and the schedules, right? But if that schedule goes off or they lose it or it's gone in a fire, they're going to freak out. Okay. And I'm here to share with you that, even though some things are beyond us and out of our control, God is still in the midst of that. And when we put all of our trust in him, and I don't mean like, you're just going to lay there and, not make choices and just not live your life. No, even if you make a bad choice, because, our life is filled with making choices. And sometimes they're good. Sometimes we use our wisdom and, we use, that knowledge base that we have to make those choices. But other ones are just out of, we don't know how to do a certain job or build a business. And so we make choices that are ignorant. We don't, because we don't know, right? And we reap consequences. That's just part of life. That's not the devil after you. That's not God mad at you or trying to teach you a lesson. That's just a part of life. But a lot of people want to demonize things in the church world. And so I'm not about that. But I am about that there are some things that are demonic, okay? And, and I am a Pentecostal. That means that I am a full believer in all the gifts in the Bible, okay? And so from the beginning of my church life, I have, I've been, all around missionary doing, the work of the Lord and, and have seen demons being cast out of people. And I have prayed a zillion times over people where demons have left them. Okay. And their lives have changed over and over and over again in my life. In the 40 years that I've been a church leader or serving God, I have seen people get healed, and their lives transformed over and over and over again. So I have no doubt. I mean, I see some people and I'm like, I, you know, I don't know, I don't know. But then a miracle happens and you're like, whoa, even I still to this day, it's an adventure for me and it's so exciting. And I'm like, whoa, that just happened. Oh my gosh. You mean that guy got healed overnight from drugs? Or, that girl just, she got healed, from, her dark depression overnight? Yes, I've seen those things happen over and over and over again. And so what I wanted to share with you is that some of it is just a simple choice. It's not a big, exorcism or anything. Sometimes it is, and I'm not like, watering that down, but sometimes it is that. And I've been involved in that. I've been there, praying demons out of people. But most of the time it's me walking people through, empowering them because I don't want to take away people's power and choice. Okay. And sometimes we church leaders do that to people. And then what we do is we cripple them from their own power to make choices, to become strong in choices. Okay. And I'm about empowering people to make their own choice because I'm just a person and I serve God too. I have, I have a relationship that I have with God, a personal one in my own personal family and things like that. But what I want to do is empower others that they have the ability to make those choices for themselves. Okay. And what I do is I walk them through the fact that, and it's sounds simple. It sounds like, well, that's way too easy. You know what I mean? But when I was going through my panic attacks, okay, a church leader and all that, it was because I was trying to take control of of my body. My body was going through changes and I was like, oh my God, how do I make this stop? And it was just dumb stuff like hot flashes, which they're not going to kill you. But, I was young and I didn't know what was happening until I went to the doctor, and then they had to walk me through what was happening and, all this and that. But that's scary, really scary. And you freak out and your body chemically can't like calm itself down. And so that's another process to learn. And so I did learn that. But in that learning that, I also had a growth in my walk with the Lord. Okay. And for men and women out there. And what I learned is that when I was going through the stress and the panic attacks and all of that, I took back and I didn't trust God. Okay. And one day, out of the blue, just out of the blue, because I was kind of silly. I'm a funny, silly person, if you haven't noticed yet. Sometimes I do I'm very stern and, sometimes, when I'm talking to people, I can be, very direct if I need to be. But normally I'm such a silly person. But I was having a moment and when I say I'm having a moment, I was like, Miss Drama Queen in the bedroom on my bed. And I was like, my life is going to end. It's going to end. And, this hot flash that I'm having because my hormones are changing, I'm going to die from it. God is trying to kill me. And I was like, I don't like the panic attacks because I can't, I get scared and I don't know what's happening. And, it feels like I'm going to die. And, and so I rolled off the bed and I plop myself onto the ground, and I'm dramatizing. I didn't literally, well, maybe I did literally do this, but I'm like, no, God, if you're going to take my life, just take me. And in that moment, God spoke to me, and it was funny. And other things happened in that moment, I was kind of being abused, in this one particular, and on that day, and it's not a good. I'm laughing about it right now, but it was not a good situation. It was, somebody towering over me, and they're like, um, just really tearing me down, while I'm not doing good. They're like literally tearing me down. Um, and I'm like, I'm like, I'm like, that was when, and normally, like, I was very much a Pentecostal Christian, and I wouldn't fight back, and I would just, like, um, the gangster in me from Southeast San Diego was gone. My competitive motocross days, and, being that girl that was in the arena with all men, competing on motorcycles. And, I was trying to live the Christian, leader life, what I thought that looked like. And it wasn't me. I was like, where did Gloria go? Where did she go? And, raising kids, and, I didn't want my kids in that world of, motocross, until one day they did see me. But in this time, I'm laying there on the ground, near my bed, and I'm like, suddenly the fight came out of me, and I didn't like, there wasn't like I didn't do anything like thing, but what I did was I made a choice in my head. It was like a choice that I made. And I said, God, you just showed me my future. I don't know where that's going to take me. I can't even imagine what it looks like, but you just showed me that today is the day that everything is going to change. And that's what God said to me. Today is the day that everything is going to change. And it did. It did. And at that second, in that moment, I made a choice to give everything back to God. My fears, my anxieties, the control, what my future might be like. And I knew in that moment that my future might not be like, it might be really, really scary. And it was. So I chose to let it all go. I chose to let it all go. And so in that moment, when all this is happening, that panic attack left. It left. And I'm silly. So I said, forget you, God. And in the middle of all of that, all of the process of those things that were happening, I walked outside. It was snowing. I said, I'm going to go outside. That's it. And then I shared with you guys that, I was like, fight mode came out, and I was like, I'm going to go drive over what is called the Dartford Bridge in London. And the Dartford Bridge is like, I don't know if you're from San Diego, it's as big as the Coronado Bridge, and it's just this massive bridge that takes, because, England is an island, but it takes you over the channel to the other side of another island, where my favorite shopping mall is at, so, and my favorite coffee shop. And so, I loved going over there. And So I just said, "That's it. I'm gonna drive over the bridge," and I did. I did, but then I remembered on the way back that you have to, drive under the tunnel, and it's not just a tunnel, but it's under the water. And the way back, it's going under the channel, under the water in a tunnel. And I thought, "Oh, no. What did I just do? I forgot." Then obviously, when you're somebody who goes through panic attacks, going over a bridge is scary. But also, going under a tunnel is even more scary, and then also going under the water is even more scary. So I was like, "What did I just do to myself?" And so I just said, "I'm just gonna trust you, God. I'm just gonna trust you." And since that time, there's never been another panic attack ever, like, ever. And I'm not that I don't get scared. There are times when I do get scared, nervous, like, "Oh my gosh, what's gonna happen?" Or, that kind of thing. But, um, even with that, I surrender to the process because I can't control, it once you're already in it, and, you know, and you're going through the process of whatever it might be, like, for instance, like, for me, it was health stuff, right? I was healthy. I've always been very healthy, but, you can't control when you're going through midlife. That's with everybody. Everybody in the whole world is going to go through a midlife, and it could be a midlife crisis. It doesn't have to be a crisis, but everybody is going to go through a midlife. Okay. And with midlife comes hormonal changes. Both men and women, this will happen to. Okay. And it usually happens, it could start to happen in your late 30s into your 40s. Okay. And for some, it's, into their 50s. Okay. So, like, for both men and women again. Okay. There are things that you can do. You can, exercise, you can eat right, you can, make sure that you are eliminating stress or being able to, deal with stress. And so some of the ways to deal with stress for leaders out there, people who run organizations. I knew I was running a massive organization, and then I was under pressure as, somebody, who a lot of people were looking to, and that's a lot of pressure. And then I had lost myself. I was the California girl. Now I'm in London, and and I'm not doing the things, nor is the weather the same. And and I'm losing who Gloria is. And there was no reinventing myself because I was now in a family unit, and I was lost in that family unit. Okay. But people were still getting healed. I am the direct result of healing for a stepchild that I raised. Um, you know, she was not well when she came, and now she's finished university, went on to be married, with a child, and has a wonderful life. In the beginning, it was not like that, and we didn't know what if it would be like that, you know. But I am the direct result of those things, working with people to healing while I was going through my own things in life. Okay. And that's a lot of pressure. Okay. Um, I have children my own children who were struggling with the trauma of me going through a divorce and things like that. Still to this day, there's still, residue of trauma that we are healing from as a family unit. But God is in control of it all, and we have to give it to Him, but also trust the process. but and also learn our own emotions in the whole thing. And so here's what I share with, major people that are major CEOs and people who run organizations and things like that. One of the things that I learned with a team of counselors when I was going through school, when I was at the University of London, taking pastoral care and counseling, I was around a team of, highly qualified professors. And, I was sharing with them, some of the things that I was going through, especially, raising a stepchild that came to me not well. And so they walked me through a lot of the process of that and other things. But one of the things that I learned, which was highly beneficial and worked really well, which you can apply right away, and anyone could apply this right away to their life, is the it's called, what we called it was how to de-roll. Okay. And that is taking the role off, the role that you play at work, because we role play. I don't know if you know this or not. We can't always just be ourselves, right? I'm not myself at work. There I am me, of course, but I can't be fully myself at work. I can't be motocross girl, hippie. I can't be that girl at work, right? And so there, although I'm qualified in a lot of major, things, I can't go to work and just be, not professional. So I have to put on my professional hat, right? I have to put on that persona that I do at work. And then when I'm here with you guys, that's another, thing that I have to show my profession to, right? I bring the profession and the teaching to you all. As a mom, I'm just mom, and trying to, deal with kids that are grown up, leading their own lives and stuff. Then I'm also a carer to, watching my mother, who's now 80 or 81. And, she could take care of herself, but, I'm kind of like monitoring, watching, aware that, there's some aging going on and this going to happen fast, you know. Um, so there's a lot of different dynamics in a family and at work and in your profession. So you do, you know, you know, I'm aware that, like, when I go to the supermarkets and things like that, and I'm gonna pay with my card, I know that, some people are gonna look me up. Everybody looks everybody up on social media now, so I'm aware that somebody's gonna look me up on social media. So I'm not gonna act like a fool, in public at the supermarket. You know what I mean? Um, I had a girl the other day. I was wearing my nonprofit T-shirt that designer Johnny Walsh made for me, which is Heart of the City, San Diego, and it says Worldwide Love, and it says San Diego and London Original. And everywhere I go, people ask me about that. What is that? What does that mean? They're so, like, interested in it, and I have this big old conversation with strangers, while I'm wherever I am in the line at the supermarket or whatever. And I'll tell them, is this guy, Johnny Walsh in San Diego, who's a creative designer, made it for me. And, and then they're like, oh, tell me what it is. What do you do? And so that I get to talk about, what do I do? I'm a nonprofit. I'm a nonprofit founder, and, I have a YouTube. I'm a podcaster. I do all this stuff, right? Um, and and so it's so fun talking about that. But here are the ways in which to keep your stress under control. Okay. I'm going to narrow it down to you, and you can take notes on this. And it is called de-rolling. You have to de-roll. Okay. And what that means is that when you're the CEO of a company, or you're leading a major corporation or something like that, a church leader, type of position where you got a lot of eyes on you. you know, um, uh, what you're going to do is you're going to, at work, you're going to start to unwind. And this is what we learn in counseling is, when you're with the client, you're the counselor, right? You're working with someone who is looking to you for safety. So your body language has to be calm and still. Your breath, the way that you breathe as well. Taking breaths every once in a while, calms people down. Things that you wear as well. People focus on certain things when they're the counselee. There are things that people will focus in on, and could be a ring that you're wearing. They'll focus in on that, as they're talking or you're helping them, right? For some, it's just so many things. For one, it was one of the counselors used to wear, playful, funny socks, and all of his counselees loved it because they would see, like there would be a new note, like a comment on the sock. It would say something funny or whatever, and it kind of break the intensity of the conversation. But you're going to be at work and you're going to start to say to whoever you're working with, if you have to close down and stop, or end the conversation or the counseling session, you're going to say, you're going to take a deep breath. Okay. Make a kind of a motion, and then decide, okay, well, I guess this is the end, and I'm gonna start to close. If you notice, when I close on my podcast, I say, okay, so in closing, so that that there's an end coming, and so you might say that, in closing, this is what we're gonna do, and then we're gonna schedule the next appointment, so that people know that they're safe to come back and they're welcome. Okay, so in closing, we're going to make our next appointment, and here are some of the topics that we might talk about next time I see you. Right? Have a think about that as you go home. And this way they have something to take away. Like, how you have somebody come to your house for dinner and you always give them a goodie bag to take home with them. I don't know. We do this in our family. I don't know if other people do this in their families, but, I was leader of a church for a zillion years, and I had something called Burrito Sunday in England. And Burrito Sunday was a major hit, right? And so, people, and it was just a cheap meal. It's just beans, some cheese, and some, tortilla with some, toppings or whatever you want to put on it. And I did it like it was like a, like when you go to, the burrito bar. And so people would, and then they would have like a little, dish, like a paper plate where they could take up, take some food home, because there's always leftovers. So, they could take something home, and they feel, they go home with the memory of this really great time, but also it's in their home now. You're with them in their home. And so they've got this goodie bag they wake up in the morning to have, And they're as they're making it, obviously they're going to remember you and your food. That's all people ever remember me for is my food, because I made people feel loved with my food. And with some of the kids in my church in England, they only remember me for my cookies. My homemade cookies. Every single time, all the kids, like, I mean, gobs, loads, 20 kids at a time would come around, because I was the only American there. And so I would have cookies, lots and lots of cookies, that I made from scratch. And now my daughter has a business in England that she is a famous business where she makes tamales. And so anyway, you're going to, I get off on a side note, right? So you're going to de-roll. So you're gonna start to say, in closing, we're gonna think about what we're gonna do the next time. We're gonna make us, the next appointment, and then you start to tell the person and yourself, maybe there's not a person, maybe you're not in an appointment with the person, but you might be by yourself. You're gonna say to whoever or yourself, you know, uh, okay, so let's see, what do I got to do at home? I'm gonna do something fun. You're gonna start to de-roll. I'm gonna, get back to being me at home, who I am at home, right? I'm gonna get back to, maybe going for a walk, maybe going to the gym. What is it that makes you you, right? You can do that even before you get home, right? For some people, they like to take a detour, and go to the beach and, it, you know, video the beach or video the sunset, and that's like a way of getting the stress out, or just going there and just watching for a minute, taking a deep breath and saying, oh, start to make your list. I'm gonna, start the dinner, and what is it that I'm gonna make? And this is, I'm gonna take the frozen food out and get that ready, and this, maybe even, you know, go and, buy your favorite smoothie at the smoothie place, before you go home, so that you feel like you've loved yourself, right? You feel fulfilled. And because work takes so much out of you, but so does leading a church. It takes a lot. People think this one, our neighbor used to say, is that all you do is get up there and talk to the people? I could do that. Hire me to do that. And so we said, come on over, try it. And we would always challenge him, come on, try it. And people don't know what it's like until they're in your shoes. And then they're like, whoa, this is real, real hard. This is real hard. So, these are just ways that you can, start to do the de-stressing from your, from the transition. Preachers know how to transition. I'm always telling you guys that. If you're a preacher and you've led a church, you've learned a whole lot of stuff about, building a business, talking with people, tragedy, trauma, crisis, new babies, the elderly, marriages, and just so many different things you learn, right? And not a lot of people learn that. It's not unless you have been a leader of a church, okay? And that's a lot to know about, okay? Even now it's now marketing, and church leaders know a lot about marketing and social media and all that. So, now it's all gadgety and stuff, and so It's so many things. So, but don't forget who you are, at the end of the day. And I here what I wanna say to you and what I've been telling people lately is you can only be you for a long, long time. But if you've lost yourself along the way and you are trying to be something that you are not, even leading a church and even that you have, your professional persona or whatever, even with that, sometimes we lose ourselves, okay? Um, because we forget to take that role off and it becomes this residue that now we bring it home, and it's just toxic, okay? And now you're like trying to be the boss of all, your family members, and they're like looking at you like, no. That's just not gonna happen. You may be like, a supervisor or, a CEO or, HR or, the preacher, the main senior preacher. And now you're going home and you're like now trying to preach to people, trying to preach to your mom, trying to preach to your dad. And, your dad is like, okay, mijo, if you do that one more time, like, you are not going to get the carnitas today, okay? I will make you a carnita, and the kind of carnita that you're not going to like. That's what's going to happen, okay? Um, with your family, you want to just be you, and let them live their life. Be yourself, you don't have to conform to what they do. I don't, and that's a hard thing. They have to accept, me, but I also I accept them, I don't try to preach to my family. I care for them. I'm there for them. You know, but to try to change them and, preach to them unless I have a niece. She's my cousin's daughter who has been coming to me, in the DMs and asking me, questions and how can I do this? And I need this help and, this and that. And I'm worried, this. And so, then that's an open door. That's an open door, and I want to be available to help, especially my family, especially when they're young and they're trying to navigate life and they're now tired and, worn out. And they're like, I'm so tired of this life. I don't want to do this anymore like this. How do I do? I don't know what to do next. All that's around me is toxicity. And it breaks my heart. I'm lucky. Not lucky. I am blessed that God intervened. I prayed. I said, God, if you're really, really real, like help me. And I had foster parents. These people, I didn't have anywhere to go. I was this young kid. And I was not a bad kid. I wasn't on drugs and I wasn't drinking. I was actually trying to take care of my younger siblings, my parents, but they were not well. They were hippies and, my dad was a biker and it was wild. People don't know. They love these people, and but they didn't know what was happening in the home. We kept all of that private because it was dangerous. Really, really dangerous. And we learned to not say anything, and then finally I just was like, this is so, like, when I finally, finding weapons, I can't say the word, but finding the weapons under the bed and, just, it was just not out, and other things happening that I can't even mention here, but it was very, very, very dangerous and toxic. And so finally, I always had a car because I was, I'm a motocross athlete and, I was driving at age 11 full on the streets and even, stealing my dad's truck at age 11 and joyriding and literally, with little kids, 10 years and 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds. And, there I am driving and, getting tickets and stuff like that. Um, for not for, being underage driving, but back then, you didn't get busted as much as you will today. Um, this was like this was like in the 70s and stuff, right? So I um I found myself living in my car. I always had a car. Like, I don't know where this car came from. I forgot. No, I'm kidding. It was with some other motocross friends. Their son was he had a car that he randomly had. It was not even registered. It was from Mexico. I don't know how he got it. But yeah, it was had Mexican license plates, and I didn't know anything about, registered a car. He gave it to me. I think I bought it for like, yeah, it was super cheap, maybe $100, I think I gave him. Um, and I always was working. I always had a job. I don't even know. Like I was always working since I was little, either babysitting or working a full job. But at this point, I was now like 14, 15, and I left. I ran away from home. I left. I was underage, and I was living on the streets for I think about a year, and um, I was just my aunt was helping me as much as she could, and we were trying to get my mom uh, detoxed and stuff, and so we came up with a plan between my aunt, my uncle, and myself on how to do how to do I can't even say the word here on social media, but how to get my mom out of the house. Um, and it was kind of a rescue, um, and um, and we did rescue her, and she went into detox, and it chokes me up because she would not be alive, and it's hard to say that. Her life was saved, and she has been clean and sober for, gosh, I don't even know, 40 something. No, more than 40 years, more 45, I think it is 45 years or something like that. Um, or more now. Gosh, maybe 50. Um, and I look back and I thought she was so old, and she was only barely turning 40, barely turning 40. And I was like, I was just a kid. I was just a kid. I thought I was at 14, 15. I thought I was so old already. I was already grown. I was already taking care of. I wasn't doing anything bad. I wasn't like, again, I was never like on drugs or anything. I just loved doing motocross and things. And, yeah, we were out with a bunch of people from the off-roading scene, and, you know, uh, cars, and so I had this car, and and it got taken away because it was on the street, and at that point, um because it was illegal to drive it anyway, and finally a friend of mine said, and it was a friend, she was first my cousin's friend, her next door neighbors, and I became friends with them since I was little, just from being over there at my cousin's house. And at that point, they were going to a school in National City, a private school. And she said, "Come and check out the school." So I did, and I started attending, trying to go to school, um, you know, And it was difficult for me because I was going through so much. It was going through a lot of stuff, dangerous stuff that no one knew about. No one knew all this was going on with me. And, and the magnitude of what that was, people didn't know. Like they didn't, not my closest aunts, no one knew. And I started attending the school, and one day my mom hadn't left. She was still there. She hadn't left yet, and she wasn't detoxing yet or anything. And she calls me at school, and she's like, "Oh my God," and hysterically, and telling me, "Come, I need money. I need money." I know you're working. I need money. And I was like, "Oh my God, stop doing this to me," And I was so like over it. And uh, I was, I was in there. Actually, how did she call me? Because I didn't have a cell phone or anything. I think she had called me to the school on the landline, and I was talking to her on the phone. But then I went into the office to the school room, into the room, and I lost it. I just lost it. And I didn't do stuff like that. I was always very much in control, but I picked up a chair and I threw it up against the wall. And I had so much hurt and rage and frustration that I had this superhuman strength. And my teacher came in and he said, "What's going on?" And it was the first time that I never shared anything with anyone because, just the danger and everything in it. And I shared a little bit. And that's all I needed to share, was just a little bit. And he called in my mom, and my aunt came with my mom, and they had a conference meeting. I don't know what they talked about, but then later on, I was in foster care. So I lost some memory in all of that. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of them. We've been having reunions and stuff, and I'm looking forward to, not, I don't want to have the open the conversation of how did this happen, how did that happen, whatever, but I just am so excited about seeing everyone, and having a great time, and just, but not even they know, no one knew, not my closest friends know. And the magnitude of that is still like choking me up, but it's because I'm so grateful at how God can take a little girl around the world, and everyone thought that would not be me, that would not be me. And in fact, even today, when I see old friends, they don't believe it's not realistic, you know, um, because I was so painfully shy. Um, but also, I was a dropout. I dropped out of school in the 11th grade, and I went back, got my diploma through my foster parents and stuff. And, I went to college and finished some college courses. And that led me to England, where I went and got more university education. How does that happen? God, because of God. Everything is because of God. Okay, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to God except through Jesus Christ. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to pray for you guys. Father, in the name of Jesus, for anyone who is listening out there, I pray, Lord, just touch their soul. touch their heart. I pray that lives get saved in the name of Jesus. If you don't know how to get saved, this is your opportunity to get saved. Saved means that Jesus has set you free, that Jesus is the way. And he saved us because he's the one that went to the cross and died and he killed the sins that we should have, uh, or that we have. And he resurrected on a cross and he paid a debt. It's like paying for you, but you don't have any way of paying it back. We try to by being good. We try to, by doing doing it with our own ability, but we can't. We cannot pay the debt back. There's no way that we can keep the 10 Commandments. There's no way humanly possible. I think a lot of us Christians forget that. And then we start to judge others because they're not doing what we do, right? And everybody is unique in their own way and the way that they live out their life in their relationship with God. The only thing that we have to keep in mind and focus in on is that Jesus is the way. Jesus is the way. And if you want that, then ask Jesus. Just say, Jesus, there's no formula. There's not a traditional formula. I'm just leading you to the way to come to the acknowledgement of Jesus Christ. And that is that I am a sinner. Bottom line, I'm a sinner. I know I'm a sinner. And I'm making really bad choices. And it's going to destroy my life. Okay? Maybe you're not. Maybe you're a good kid. I was a good kid. I was making bad choices and I was a sinner. I know that I was a sinner. But I wasn't doing, drugs, and I wasn't doing all this really bad stuff. But I knew that I was a sinner. Okay. I knew that I needed help. I knew I needed something bigger than myself, bigger than my parents, bigger than everything. And that was God. We just say, Jesus, I'm a sinner. I want Jesus. I want to believe that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. I want to believe that Jesus can save me and change me. And through that, that is how you come to know Jesus and believe. But then what I want you to do is go get a Bible. Get a Bible and start to read it. Some people say start here, start there, start here. It doesn't matter where you start. Don't get all into where do I start? Just start from the beginning. Start from the beginning and read it all the way through. Just keep reading it through. Take your time reading it, but just keep trying to read it. Read it all the way through. Okay. And don't get all into because people will then want to start to say, oh, read this other thing, because it will help you to know what this means. You don't know what all that means yet. You're just a baby trying to get from one point to the next point. Okay. Just start with a regular Bible that you can hold in your hands, not your phone, not any of that. Just get a book, a Bible, and read from the first page to the last, as long as it takes. Well, however long it takes you, okay? Because people will start to say, here, do this and you'll get through it in a year, or do that and you'll get through it in this amount of time. Don't worry about all that, okay? If that all happened to me, I'd have been freaked out. I just gave up. I'd have been like, oh my God. But just get it and just start reading it. That's it. Okay. It came to life for me. It came to life for me. And I didn't even know how to witness to people. You see the street preachers and they know how to say what they need to say, and they got the scripture. And I didn't know how to do any of that. I just was one day, I would have my Bible with me and sitting at a table, or back in those days, this was the 80s, and so weren't sitting at a Starbucks or anything like that. I was sitting at somebody's dinner table or something, which was really ghetto and really like, some cheap dinner table. We weren't like at a fancy dinner. um, and they would, I would say, I would just be open it and read it, and I would say, check this out, dude. Oh, dude, check this out. What it says, man. We used to say words like that. Oh, that's so cool. And so I would just start reading it. And they would say, "Oh man, what the heck is that? What are you reading?" And we would be like, that lingo would be going back and forth, and I would say, "It's the Bible." And what the heck are you reading that Bible? What word? How do you? What do you? Why are you reading that? Then I would go into, we'd be in this conversation. We're just kids. We're just young. I'm just young at that point. I'm just like now 18, 19. And, I don't know how to witness. I don't know what to say. I don't know that, where it's going, or, the next step to say, first say this and then say that, who knows all that? No, it was just authentic. It was real. It was raw. And I was sharing what my experience was with that. Oh, dude, I was sitting in my house. I was sitting at home, and this crazy thing happened to me. And they were like, "Nah, you were losing it, man. You probably needed to go see a psych, dude." I'm like, "Nah, dude, that's not what happened." And then I'm pretty sure if I was crazy, I'd know, and then so it would be that lingo going back and forth. We didn't know. Now I'm a grown lady, and, I'm trying to speak, with elegant words, try to get things across to a whole worldwide audience. But, with inside of me, in my memory, in my soul, what I'm remembering is, it was just real. It was just raw, and the way that we talked was very, like, not like I'm speaking today. It was just, and sometimes there was cuss words that came out. We were like, "No, dude, that's like that." We're like, oh wait, dude, I'm not supposed to be saying that." You know what I mean? Because that's who we were. But God changed all of that. God came into our life, you know, and He changed us. But it has to come with authenticity, because I know people that, they came to Jesus because that's what they thought they were supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to go, I'm supposed to act like I have Jesus, and, the next step is to get married, but I'm not really saved. You know what I mean? I'm just like, going through the motions. There has to be some authenticity in it. Like, you have to know that you know that you know. Okay. And I can't turn back. I'm too much in it. I can't turn away from God. Okay. I know too much now. And you know, some people talk about their backslidden stories and things. Backslidden meaning that they, started doing all kinds of stuff that they used to do back in the day, drinking, and they fall back into drugs and stuff like that. But all of that is just that isn't someone trying to be bad. That's someone trying to, the backslidden story and all those things. That's not someone trying to be bad. That's someone that is been so hurt that they're looking for an outlet, okay? And they're not trusting God, okay? They put their trust in the substance abuse, okay? They put their trust in the numbing of what the drug does to numb you, or what the food does to sedate you, what that donut does to make you feel better as a treat, or, what that alcohol does to make it numb up a bit, so you can tolerate the day. That's putting your trust in that thing, in that substance, in that food, in that drug. Okay? That's not the way God wants us to live. He wants us to trust him. Okay? All sin can be broken, but we have to be authentic. We have to come clean. We have to say, hey, don't be trying to, a lot of people try to hide stuff. They try to keep that secret. I'll take care of this in secret. You know what I mean? People need to know our story, and I even get told, people don't need to know about your divorce. That's between you and your family. People tell me that. I'm like, what? What? How are other people? That's a part of me. It's a part of my story, and it's a part of what I do to tell people and how to heal from that, how to go through something so devastating and so traumatic. I'm still trying to heal from that. I've got some healing and I can talk about some things, but obviously some things still choke me up like hardcore, right? So, that's a part of our, to be authentic and to, be real with yourself and don't lie to yourself. Okay. Lying is a form of, is another form of not trusting God. Okay. It's a form of trying to be something that you are not. Okay. It's a wanting people to be pleased with you, but you can't even, you're not pleased with yourself first because of the amount of inauthenticity in the amount of not being authentic with yourself. Okay. And until you become authentic, until you are just, and I don't mean like being stupid at work or, I'm going to be myself because I'm at work. I don't care where I am. I'm, going to be myself. You can't do that. You can't be fully yourself in certain places. You're gonna mess yourself up. You do that. But I mean, just, when you come to God, you got to become clean. You got to come fully you. Look, I'm not any good right now. I am like, I need God. So with that said, I'm going to leave you with that. I love you guys. Each and every Sunday I am here at 8 p.m. or sometimes I'm late. Each and every Sunday I'm here before I go into work. I work an overnight shift, a knock shift, graveyard shift, overnight shift, whatever you want to call it. I go into work after I do this live. I work a full-time job, okay? And I'm a minister. And each and every Sunday at 8 p.m., I come in here and I give you my love and my care, okay? By sharing my experiences and my wisdom, okay? On how to get through difficult things, okay? How to grow from it, how to learn from it, and how to heal from it. Okay. CEOs of organizations and people like that, they don't know how to, stop the anxiety. They don't know how to, get through, like de-roll and go home and take off the mask, take off the role that they play at work. Okay. And it comes home and it's hurting the families. And so, I'm here to teach you how to do that from 40 years of experience. Okay. It's been a long time. And so, like, I want to share with you some of that. I want to give you that value. And there's no gatekeeping here. Okay. If Christians don't gatekeep, we are just raw. We just bring stuff. We just tell you, look, you just need to like give it all to Jesus. No one is exempt from giving it all to Jesus. We all have to do it. Okay. And you will see how good God is. You will know how loved you are in doing that, okay? You are loved. All right, this is Gloria from Heart of the City, San Diego, and the Gloria Madrano podcast, and I'm signing out. Love you. Bye.